good place now. You are listening to Perspectives with Ashley Berges.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Berges. Have you ever wondered about where you came from and who you're related to? You know, I find it very interesting when we think about family. We wonder, who are our ancestors and what was going on back then? I think a lot of us know our immediate family. Some of us have small families. Some of us have larger families. But it's interesting to think about genealogy, to think about ancestry, to think about from whence we came, and I know that lately everybody's been doing these tests to find out, what part of them are from this country or what parts from that country. And, I agree and disagree on some of that stuff. But when you find someone that's doing it in a really historical way, where you're not having to spit into a tube or figure that out, but you're actually being able to see the genealogy and see from whence you came, it's pretty powerful stuff. And so joining me today on Live Your True Life Perspectives, a friend of mine, Dan Nelson. Dan is the creator and owns the company Dancestors Genealogy. Dan, great to have you in studio today. How are you doing?
Thank you. Doing great. Glad to be here, Ashley.
I'm glad to have you here. And, I think it's interesting to know where we came from. And I come from a small family, a pretty small family, and I don't know a lot about my family. And I think a lot of people out there listening to the show right now probably don't either.
Right. I think that's a pretty common occurrence. And what happens as people get older, they start to realize, they're in more touch with their mortality, and they start to realize, gee, I haven't gathered those stories. I haven't done anything with all that information and all that knowledge. A common time is you go to a funeral and Uncle Fred passes away and you say, man, we should have gotten all of Uncle Fred's stories, but we didn't. So let's get together before Aunt Edna dies and get those stories. Well, you all go home, you all get busy, you're all well-intended, but 2 years later you're at Aunt Edna's funeral and those stories are now have disappeared, lost from your family. And everybody says, boy, I wish I'd paid more attention to Grandpa when we were kids and he was telling those stories. And so we try and help people basically intersect that and grab all that information before it's lost. We help people be responsible with their legacy because most people don't know what to do with, that kind of knowledge and information in those stories.
It's powerful, and it's interesting, too. I believe that, especially when we really care about certain family members, we don't want their legacy to die. We don't want their imagery to die. We want to stay connected with that person. And I think there's kind of a duality there. And I think that you're right. When you're actually compiling this information, it's kind of part of respecting them and actually showing credence to their life here on the planet.
Yep, absolutely. And, what we try and capture is not just the pictures and the historical documents, but the stories about these people. And a lot of those stories are out there. They're just hidden, and people don't even know people are part of their family. So we go and grab that information so that they can find out things that make it more interesting about their ancestors and where they came from, not just names and dates, but actual, here's what they did, and here's what they accomplished. And most people think, oh, all my ancestors are boring farmers. Well, they probably all weren't boring farmers. We'll find some stuff out about them that tells you they weren't.